Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new project. In today's video, we're going to build a GitHub user finder where we'll be able to type usernames from the GitHub. Now in this case, I will search myself, and then once I click to that search button, I will do some fetch requests to the GitHub API, and then I will be able to fetch this data. So here I will have my avatar, the name, title, company, location, blog or website information, and then member since date. So we'll also have the public repost count, public gist count, followers and following counts. And then we'll be able to click the view the profile. As you can see, that took me to the profile page. And then I will have the repositories, and for each repository we'll have the language that repository is written, and then the stars count, forks and watchers. So here it's gonna be in the descending order depending on the stars count. So it's gonna go from the most start one to the very least, and we can show more. That is gonna show you the rest of it, and then you can show less if you want. And then in the search history, we will be able to see the users that we have searched. Now, so far I have only searched myself. I can delete that and I will get the success message, and now I can add that again. So it's gonna be here. So if we don't have a user with this name, it is gonna be giving us some errors because we are handling the error messages. And if we don't have any users in our search history, it's just gonna say no users searched yet. So this is gonna be the project. And one thing that I would like to say, I built a very small version of this project 3 years ago in my freshman year, and it actually got me an internship. So I thought this project could be really valuable for your resume, or interesting if you want to build something like this. And it's going to be beginner friendly. As you can see, there is nothing complex going on in this app. The technology that we're going to be using is going to be React with Next.js, and for the UI library we're going to be using Chakra UI. So with all this, I think we are ready to get started. So now I have created an empty folder on my desktop and open it in VS Code. So I will open up a new terminal, and I'm just going to say npx create create next app at latest, and I will put it into my current directory by adding this dot. Now I will press enter. Now it's gonna ask me some questions. I don't want to use TypeScript in this project. I want to use ESLint, not Tailwind CSS, source directory, and then app router, which is the latest version and the recommended one. So I'm gonna say yes, and let's just say no for the aliases. So it's been initialized. Now in order to start this, I will say npm run dev, and it is gonna open it up in localhost 3001 because at 3000 I got this project. This demo is going on, so I will just say localhost 3001, but in your case that should be just 3000. So now this is the boilerplate that we got from the Next.js, and now I can just clean it up a little bit. Inside the layout, I could just change this title to maybe GitHub user finder, and description is fine for me. So I will just save this file, and inside the pages I will just delete everything and just say main, and then open it up. So I will just delete styles and images. So here we don't need this page module.css. And inside the global CSS, I will delete everything and just do some resets, which I will say padding 0 and margin 0, as well as border box, box sizing going at the border box direction. So I will save this and then save this page. Maybe we could just say hello here, and now that should be it. We just refresh this localhost, we're just gonna see that hello text. And now, as I said, we would like to use Chakra UI. So I will just say Chakra UI Next.js. And here we'll get this. We want to initialize it. So this is the npm script that we need to copy. I will copy that inside, open up a new terminal and just paste it. So press enter. That's gonna download everything that we need. And then once it's done, we'll be able to use Chakra UI. But if you don't know what that is, so it is a UI library that is gonna make the like development process 10 times faster. Now let's say you need a model, right? What you need to do is write a lot of HTML and CSS styling and add some JavaScript code so that you can like open a model like this and put your model body, model title, and you know, close buttons that overlay at the background that you see. But instead of doing all this, you just copy this from a UI library. In this case it is Chakra UI, and you just paste it and it's gonna work without any bugs. So this is the benefit of it. So here in our demo we use that model in our search history. Also we use this avatar. As you can see, like if you just search for avatar, we're gonna see that we just got different sizes if we want to change. And then what do we also have? We have this badges. Now let's search for badge. As you can see, like this is the default, and you can change the color scheme, maybe doing green, red, purple, and whatever you want. So this is the benefit of using Chakra UI. So now I think we initialize that by installing this dependencies. Now we're going to be using this Next.js, and let's just say Next.js Chakra UI again, Chakra UI. So inside the getting started, we will have this setup, but we are using the app directory, which is the new way of doing things in Next.js, and they give us this setup file. So inside the app directory, initialize a file called provider.tsx, but we're not using TypeScript, so it's going to be JSX. I will just copy this, and then inside our VS Code, under the app directory, I will say providers.jsx, and paste what I just copied, delete this TypeScript stuff, and I think that should be ready to go. So we here say that this is going to be a client component, right? It's going to be running in the browser, not in the server, because we have like this is a UI library. That's why it just needs to happen so inside the browser, inside the client. So it just has this cache provider and then Chakra UI provider that passing in the children, so that we will be able to use that model, avatar, button, badge, and all that stuff that is coming from Chakra UI. So now what they say, let's go back to the documentation, and they say just inside the layout, wrap your children with these providers. So come back to here inside the page, inside the layout. We'll just delete here for now, and then we will just say providers that is coming from that file, and then put the children in between. So now if you just save this, everything is gonna work, and now you'll be able to use button, model, and everything that is coming from Chakra UI. Now let's just take a look. So they also say like how you can extend the theme color and all that stuff. If you want to take a look at it, you can just check back the documentation. So let's just use a button, and here I would like to use this default, copy this, and inside my page I will just paste this and import the button from Chakra UI React. Now if I just save this, you will see that you'll get an error. And the reason is because like it says this button is not labeled with this use client. So since Next.js 13 just released, Chakra UI library, the contributors needs to just add this use client into their source code, but they didn't so far. Like while you're watching this video, maybe that has been fixed, but so far it is not. So we need to handle this, either adding use client at the top of this page. So if I just say use client, save this, now it's gonna know that this is a client component. That should work. We just that error just gone. But another solution which I found from the Stack Overflow, that you will just create a Chakra file, or you can call this whatever you want, I guess, chakra.js. And what I will do is to say this is going to be a use client, and then export star from Chakra UI React. Now this is so instead of saying this is going to be a client component, you just import this button from our Chakra file. So you will say import button from, so it's gonna be at app inside the app directory and like chakra.js. So now we also get out of this error and it works as expected. I think this is a better way of using this, but I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments. So now we are ready to build the application. We did our setup. So here, first of all, I would like to change the color of the body to black and then have the colors as white. And then we'll have this navbar. So let's just do this inside the global.css. So I'm gonna say body and it should be background color of black or maybe 000, and then color is gonna be FFF. And now I would like to just add the important flag at the bottom so that so Chakra UI sometimes use default styling, which is going to be the light mode or dark mode. In order to use our color, I just want to put that as important. So now we can just save this and take a look at it. Here, as we can see, background is black. And now let's go to build the navbar. So inside the page, we will create a component, right? Inside the main, I just want to change this main with container so that everything will be in between. If you just see this, like everything is going to be in the center. So we have that container where the size of it is going to be large. I'm just going to say the maximum width is going to be container.lg, and you can take a look at it from the documentation. So everything that I use here, I already searched it up in the documentation and I just use it. So we have this small, and if we just change this to large, I think it's gonna change. Yeah, like this is how it works, and you can do a lot more stuff, or maybe this is all. So okay, we have our container. Now I just want to put my navbar after like at the top. So I will just delete this and I will say navbar, which we need to just create. And inside the app directory, I just want to have this components directory, and inside I will have navbar.jsx. So I will say rafce. It is going to give me this template. So now let's just build the navbar. So I'm just going to import this from here, and inside our navbar we have a picture on the left, or like the logo, and then something on the right, which is going to be this button. So in order to do this, we could use flex and justify content like space between. So let's just take a look at it, how we can use flex. So this is really a div. You use flex as the container, and then you just put the children's inside of that. So here I will go back to the VS Code and change this with flex, which is going to be coming from not this Chakra UI React, but from this so to say file that we created. Or like it can actually come from the Chakra UI React, but you need to do this stuff. So you just need to say that should be a use client component. I'm really not sure which one is the best way to do it. So we could just take a look at it from the Google, but this is something new right now, and like I'm not really sure. So I will, instead of doing this, I will say import this flex from so at app directory, right? So I think it was like this, and then inside the Chakra, and now we don't need this use client label. So inside this flex, as I said, we'll say justify content is gonna be space between, and then padding y we could say gonna be 6. Also align item center so that they will be in the center even if they are spaced between. So we'll have 2 bugs, and what bugs is actually a normal div that you use in like HTML. So we'll have 2 boxes, one for the left and one for the right, and on the left one we will have an image. So now I would like to just say image, and that should be coming from Next.js, like Chakra UI Next.js. And now if I just do this, I will get an error because again I need to use client here. So I think instead of doing this, I will create one more file that is gonna be chakra-next.js, so or like next and then .jsx, or maybe just JS, I'm sorry. So I'll just say export all from Chakra UI next.js, that should be Chakra dash UI next.js, and then I need to say this is gonna be a use client. So really this is the new way of doing things. So I'm gonna save this in here. Instead of getting that from the Chakra UI next.js, I will say inside the app that is gonna be Chakra next. So here I'm just gonna provide some source, which is gonna be the image, and you can get that from the GitHub gist or like GitHub repository. So now I have put the logo inside the public, which is gonna be this GitHub logo. You can just delete this next SVG and reversal SVG. So we only have this logo.png. So I will say this source is gonna be equal to slash, which means like we're in the public directory, and logo.png. And then I will say fill, because it's gonna fill its parent, and then maybe we could say alt is gonna be GitHub logo. In here inside the box we will say position should be relative, and then the aspect ratio is gonna be 5 to 3. And then now if we just, maybe we should give some height for this, or minimum height of 20, and let's just save this and save the page. Here we actually there is image here, right? So if you just take a look at it from the elements, image is actually here, but it is not visible because image is black. Now in order to make a black image white, we could use something called invert. It's gonna be a CSS property, and in order to use CSS custom styles, you can use SX, that is coming from Chakra UI, and we will open up an object which is going to be filter, and inside a string we will say invert. So like invert, it's going to be 1. Now if I save this, that image is going to be white. As you can see, it is just exactly same what we have here. And then for the next box, which is going to be that button, so I will say get me a button from that app Chakra. So import this. So size of this is gonna be medium, and then color scheme gonna be WhatsApp, so that it's gonna be that green color. And now I think inside we'll say search history. And if we take a look at it, this is what we got in our application in our navbar. Now I think we are ready with this. Later we're gonna add this functionality, this model, but not right now, to be honest. Now let's add this text, and then input, then search button. So for this, inside the page, I think here, now in order to use a paragraph or H1 span, you can use this text that is coming from Chakra again. I will say search users on GitHub. Maybe we could just capitalize this. And for the size, we'll say font size is gonna be, if you just open up that string, you will see all these recommendations, or if it not, you will say control space to get this. I will say it's gonna be 2x large, and then we'll have the text align as center, and then maybe margin Y of 4. Now that should be it. We have it here, and then below this, I think I'm gonna have this as a component. So I would like to come here and create a new component that is gonna be search.jsx, say RAFCE to get the boilerplate. And then now this is gonna be a form, right? Because we'll submit something. So I would like to get the input from, again, my file, which is gonna be import input from the app, right? Like this app and Chakra. So I think only Chakra, right? And then here we'll have some variants. So let's say variant is gonna be outline. So you have field and outline, and then you will get a placeholder that is gonna say placeholder search for a username, or maybe you could just say type a username, and let's give it an example, IE, and like Burak Korkmaz, which is gonna be my name. And then what we would like to do, we would like to give some border, and we will say focus border color is gonna be green, maybe 500. And now that should be it for the input, and we'll also have a button. So inside we'll say search, and size is gonna be medium. Size is gonna be medium. Type of it is gonna be submit, so when we click the enter, that would also submit this form. And then color scheme, I think I will use WhatsApp again, and margin top should be 4. So now just save this file and take a look at it. So we cannot see this because we didn't import this. Under the text, that will say search, and save it here. So there we go. But I would like to have this search disabled if we didn't type anything here. So for this, I can use a state, which I will say const query and set query, that is giving here, and import the use state. Since we import this, that need to be a use client component. So now here we'll say disabled. So now disabled is gonna be, if we don't have a query, this is gonna be true. So disabled is gonna be true. And also, just to show that from the UI, we'll say opacity. If we don't have a query, that could be 0.5. Otherwise, it's gonna be like visible, or like the default case. So here, if you don't type anything, and now we type, but we didn't change that by adding this, so to say, on change. So the value is going to be query, and on change we will set that query. And let's take a look. So I will type something here, and that query will change so that our button opacity will be 1. As we can see, if we delete this, opacity is 0.5, and if we just write something in, it's going to be like 1. And now I just want to, when I click that search, I want to fetch the data. So for this, come back to inside the VS Code, and here this form will have an onSubmit function. In here we could just say handle submit, that is gonna do that fetching the user, or maybe I could just say fetch data, or let's just say handle submit. So here, that handle submit is going to be a function. As I said, it's going to be taking the event, and we need to prevent the default. If we don't do this, that will refresh the page once you press that search button. And here, let's say alert the query. You search for query. And here now, I will just type something in, and it's going to say you search for this. And now we would like to actually fetch the user. So here, I will just delete that alert, and I will say this function is going to be async, so that we'll do some await inside. So I will say if we don't have a query, we'll just return, right? We'll not run the function. But if we have, so we'll say try and catch. Try and catch. So here I'm just going to say const result await. So we'll call the fetch function to fetch the data, and we'll use the Github API. So I will just open up this template literals or template strings. I will say https and API github.com user slash that query. So it's going to be username in our case. And then once you fetch that, we'll use the JSON method to parse that result. And then now let's just console log that data. So I'm just going to say data is here. Save this inside our console. So we have some errors, but I think this is related to so maybe if you just refresh this, that should be gone maybe. And yeah, so I will say Burak Korkmaz, search this. So as you can see, data is here. We got this. We have the avatar URL, my biography, blog, and my everything, just everything is here. Now if we have some username that does not exist, we will get this data. Let me just zoom in. So we'll again get a result, but it has the message is going to be equal to not found. So we need to check this. So here I will say if the data.message is not found, maybe we could, instead of throwing an error, we will just show a toast. So I'm just gonna say so here open this curly braces and return a toast. Now how do we use toast in Chakra UI? Let's just search for the documentation. So inside the toast, you just call that hook. So copy this, and then you literally just call that toast function. Here I will paste it, import this, and now, so here we will say toast and call the function with an object. So title is gonna be maybe error. So let's say error, and then it's gonna have the description, user not found, or maybe like we could say if data message, if we have a message from this data, we'll say the description is going to be changing depending on that. Now if the data.message is equal to not found, right, we will say user not found. But maybe there is some other errors that maybe GitHub API does not work at that moment. It's going to be whatever that message is, and then we will put the status as the error and maybe the duration of 3 seconds, and then is closable should be true. And now if we just save this, here I will search for someone that does not exist, search it, and we'll get this error. And we'll just do the same thing for the catch. So here I'm just gonna copy this toast actually and paste it. That just only gonna be the maybe the error.message, and the rest should be same. So now we got the data, right? This is the user data, and we would like to use it. So let's take a look at our demo. So we got the user data, and we want to use it inside this component, and we will have the repositories. So I will have 2 different components for this. One is going to be for that repository, and then the other one is going to be this user profile. So for this, I would like to come here, and now I will say just render the user profile component which we will create, but we need to pass that data into this component. So what I will do here is actually lifting this state up. So I'm gonna say const user data and set user data. So it's gonna be use state, initially it's gonna be null, and then loading will have, right? If you just take a look at the demo, once you just search it, it fetches the data, and for a second you will see a loading spinner here, as you can see. So for this we'll have the loading state, and it's gonna be const loading and set loading. Initially it's gonna be false. Once we click that search button, it's gonna be true. And now we will pass the set user data function into our search so that we can mutate this user data state. So I will say set user data is going to be equal to this, and then we would like to also change this loading state inside here. So set loading is going to be equal to set loading, and now set user data function. So here we will actually get a result. So we'll get a result, and we will set user set user data, pass that result into here. Now that might look a little bit confusing, but once we do this inside the search, you will see what I mean. So let's just comment this out for a second. And here, so once we fetch the data, right, we are doing it here. Now we got the data, and if we don't have any errors, so after this if check, we will say set user data, which is gonna be that prop that we're getting. We're gonna set it to this data. So here I'm gonna take the set user data as well as set loading. So now once we click that search button, this handle submit will run, and if there is not query, this function is just gonna not gonna be executed. But if we have a query, we'll say set loading is gonna be true, and set user data is gonna be null initially, because we have not data yet, and we will try to fetch it. If we got it, we will set that user data, whatever we fetch, and if we have an error, we will show that toast error. And then finally, if we success or we fail, I would like to just say set loading is gonna be false, so that we can remove that spinner from the screen. So now if we just save this and delete this console.log from here, so now inside the page.js, if we just console.log the user data, so let's just do everything from scratch in order to, like use state is not defined. So import this use state, and then since we are using use state, this need to be a use client. And let's just do this a workflow from scratch. So in my console, I don't have anything, so I will just search for my name, and once I search it, as you can see, first data was null for a second, and then once it fetched that, we're gonna see this data, and which is this user data. And now I will put that user data into this user profile, and let me just create that component. So user profile.js6, and then I will say RAFCE, and then so I will get that user data. So copy this, paste it, and here. So now if we just save this and import this, that should work. Inside which says we have the user profile, and I'm gonna take that user data state. So now let's just build this component, and initially we'll say return, maybe that could be a React fragment as our parent container, and inside we will have a flex that is coming from the Chakra file. So I will say flex that is coming from @app and Chakra. So we are using flex because in our demo we have something on the left. As you can see, this is our left container, and then we have this thing on the right. That's why we use this. So we'll say flex. The first one on the left is gonna be a vertical stack, and if you don't know what that really means, let's just take a look at the documentation. So it's gonna be vstack, vertical, maybe just stack. And as you can see, we have at the bottom, maybe, yeah, this is like vertical stack that just puts everything on top of each other. So it's just normal flex, but with the direction being column, and you can use spacing, align, like a lot of props here. So it's really useful, and we're going to be using stack because we just want to put this like on top of each other, and then we're going to be using the same thing for here. So let's come back to here, and so this flex, we will say margin y should be 16, and border is gonna be 2 pixel and solid, and we would like to give the border color as green 500 so that we can have the WhatsApp theme. So I will say border radius, it should be 4, and then the padding of 8. So padding is gonna be 8. And then this vertical stack is gonna have gap of 5, and at the top we will have avatar, which is coming from the Chakra. So this is a self-closing tag, and for the source, what we'll give, so let's just say source, it is gonna be the user data dot avatar URL. So avatar underscore URL. Now what is this? Let's just take a look. If we take a look at our localhost, so it cannot read this because now it is empty. So we will just say, now initially user data is empty, right? So it is null. And if we only want to show this user profile if we have the user data. So if we have user data, then render this, otherwise don't. So now I'm gonna save this and take a look at the console. I will say Burak my name, and now here, oops, so we got the object, the error, we're gonna solve this. So here we have like avatar underscore URL, right? and maybe we didn't pass that user data, so we pass set user data. I'm sorry, that should be user data, not the function. And inside the user profile, we got that user data, we show the avatar URL. So maybe for this we could say size could be X large, and so now we should be able to see that profile picture. Let me just search. As you can see, we got this. Now we have all this user data inside an object, and we just need to just populate it in our screen. So I want to have avatar URL, bio, blog, company. I think they created that. Also like followers URL, following, and then location, name. You know, like we have all the data that we need. So now I will shrink my console and I will come inside here. So user, like avatar size should be maybe 2x large, and then we could give the name for this. This is gonna be user data.name. Like actually, instead of calling this user data, you could call it user, but let's just have it as user data. And what this name property means, let's just take a look at the documentation. So avatar, so always check back to documentation if you don't know how it works. Now if it so here we can see the name is like starts with K and T, and if it couldn't find this profile picture as a fallback, it is gonna put this K and T, whatever you put inside this name. So this is how it works. You can give the sizes from I think 2x small to very like 2x large, maybe 5x large. So after this avatar, we will have a button, and that is going to be coming from here. The size, maybe the color scheme. So we didn't import the button, so color scheme is going to be WhatsApp again. Inside it's going to say view profile, but we need to wrap this with the a tag so that it will take us to the profile page. So I'm going to say a, and href is going to be user data dot HTML URL that is coming from that object, and the target should be blank so that it will open it in a new Chrome tab. And inside this I will say view profile. Now if we take a look at it here, so we have this view profile button. When I click to this, that will open up a new tab, and we'll go to this profile page. So after this flags, after this vertical stack, we would like to put one more to this side. And after this vstack, I will say one more vstack, which is gonna have a flags at the top for that badges. So here we have a flags in order to put this badges side by side. So here we have flags, and maybe gap should be 4, and then we will have one badge, and inside the badge I will say public repos like this, and we will say it is gonna be user.public repos count, and import this from the Chakra. So its font size could be maybe 0.9 em, and then color scheme is gonna be orange. Now save this, and we're just gonna copy and paste this again and again. So I think it's gonna be 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now public gists, and it's gonna be followers, and then it's gonna be the following count. So we'll just say following. And also like the everything, this public repos and this user like name, avatar URL, HTML URL is all coming from that object. So we will say public, this should be public gists, and then followers, I guess, user.followers, and then that should be following. And now we want to change this schemes, so we'll say this should be pink, that should be cyan, and then this should be purple. let's take a look at it, and this is what we got in our in our app. And I just want to give a little bit of gap in between, so I think that should be here, where we could just say margin left will be 8, and align items should be self start. So with this we'll get this margin left from here, and then let's build the rest. So after this flex, we will have a text that is gonna put the username inside. So we'll say import the text, and so it did not import like from Chakra. So the font size is gonna be 2x large, font weight is gonna be bold, and then like margin top of 4, and then color should be maybe a green 400, and inside we will say user data dot name. And let's just copy this and paste it below. We will have font size as medium. This is gonna be the bio, and font weight is gonna be bold, and color could be so let's say like 500. So after this we will have a box, which is a normal div. So here we will have the company. So first I'm gonna say a text. So font size of this is gonna be medium, and then inside this text we will have one more text, and we're gonna be using this as span. So I will say text, so this is gonna be as equal to span, or maybe you could put it like this, doesn't really matter. But so font weight is gonna be bold, font weight bold, and the color will change. Its color is gonna be green 200, and then margin right should be 1, and inside we will just say company with semicolon or like colon, and then after this text we will say if user data dot company, or if not we will just say not specified, like this. Now if we just save this, we're gonna see that we got the name, bio, and the company name. So in my case I did not specify it, that's why we got this. If I just delete this, we're not gonna see anything, because now this is null. As you can see, it is null, but we are saying that if it is null, then this or should work, and it's gonna put that not specified thing to there. And then I think we just can copy this and then paste it one more time, which is gonna be for location. So location and user data dot location. Save this. We're gonna see like Turkey, and then let's put the the website or blog. So after this I'm gonna paste it again, so I will say blog slash website. Maybe we could separate this, or maybe like this, and then I will say, so now if we have user blog, we would like to just redirect to that page. I would like to just have it as a link, so when I click to this, that will take me to that page. For this we could say, so if user data dot blog, user data dot blog, we would like to render something, otherwise we're just gonna say not specified. And then here it's gonna be an A tag that is gonna have the href as the user data dot blog, open it up in a new window, so that we'll have this target underscore blank, and then close this A tag, and then here we'll say user data dot blog. So now if we just come to here, inside our demo, so here when I click to this, that will take me to that page. And at the very bottom I just want to have that created at. So for this I'm gonna copy this text, which is location, and then put that after this text. It's gonna be member since, and then user data, we just say like created at. It's gonna give in a weird format, as you can see. So we don't have it, maybe I just typed that wrong. So created underscore at. Oops, why this does not work? Created at. Okay, now as you can see, it really looks weird. So for this, I'm just gonna say delete this part and copy this. I will say new date, pass that thing that I just copied, and then I'm gonna say to local date string and call that function. Now that should look in a better format. So now this is really what we would like to have in this component. We just have the user profile, we got a bunch of data, and then at the bottom we would like to have this repositories, as you can see here. And for this, I'm going to create one more component, which is going to be that repos. So under this flex, we will say repos and import this, which is going to be our new component. So repos.jsx. And now if you just realized in our so the data that we fetch, we have something called so repos URL. So if you just copy this, I'm gonna paste it here, and if we search for it, this is also an API, an endpoint that will fetch the repositories for my account. And if you change the username here, that is just gonna work in that way. So I would like to send this so the repos URL into this repos component. So I'm just gonna say repos URL is gonna be equal to user data dot repos underscore URL. So let's say RAFCE to get the boilerplate, save it, and import this into there. So we can save this file, and inside the repo now we can literally fetch the data. So in React, whenever we think about fetching some data, we should use effect. So I will say use effect that is coming from React. Just initialize it on mount for now, and then we will do our data logic here. But since we are using use effect, this needs to be a use client component. And here I will have my function. So const fetch repos is going to be an asynchronous function, and I'll just call it. Now here, if you remember, we were taking a repos URL. So repos URL, or maybe was it repo URL? Okay, repos URL. So we will use fetch with this URL. So I would like to use try catch. So if I have any errors, I'm just gonna call that toast stuff that I had earlier. So where did I use it? Maybe inside the user profile. Oops, so it was in the search. Okay, I'm gonna copy this, paste it here, import the use toast, and then so I want to just get this toast, error toast. I'm gonna copy and paste it here. If we have any error, we're gonna show that toast with that error message. And now I'm gonna say const result, which is gonna be await fetch that repo URL. And then once I fetch the data, I just want to parse it by using JSON method. And if we have any data message, we're gonna again handle that. So if we have data.message, instead of returning the toast, I will say throw a new error with that message, and we're gonna catch it with this toast. And then now I would like to have a state for the repos. So I'm gonna say const repos and set repos. Initially it's gonna be an empty array, and we need to import use state. And then also I would like to just show some spinner depending on the loading state. So I'm gonna say const loading and set loading. Initially it's gonna be false, and if you remember, we had that show more button at the bottom of our repositories. So I'm gonna say const show more and set show more. Initially it's gonna be false because we are only showing the first fifth one. And then so once we got the data, and if we don't have any error, we're gonna set the repos to this data. So with this, I think we are ready to go, and we have a dependency array. We should put that repos URL, so whenever that repos URL changes, this use effect will run again. and then we could just put that toast so that ESLint would be happy with us. Okay, now let's just console.log the repos. Console.log repos is here, and then just put the repos. So once you go to so here, let's just refresh the page, delete the console. Now if I just search my name, now initially we got the user profile data, and now we will get this repos, right? Because inside the user profile we have this component which is the repos, and we pass that URL into here and we fetch it. So I'm gonna if we just search for it, as you can see, repos is here. Initially it was empty array, and now we got 30 of them, and each of them is an object with ID and I think the language, which language that has been typed in, and name, every data that we have here, star, fork, and watcher count, as well as name of it with the language. So now let's just create one of these so to say repository div. We have this one div, and then we're just gonna map through that array, just show them dynamically. So I will go to inside VS Code, and delete here. I will have again an empty fragment so that I can put multiple children inside. So inside this fragment we will have first a text that is coming from this Chakra UI, but I'm gonna say import text from app Chakra. Okay, here I will say text align to center, so letter spacing to be 1.5, and then font size is gonna be 3x large, not 2, and then font weight is gonna be bold. Also the color should be green 400, as well as margin top being 4, like this. And inside we'll say repositories, and then after this text, if it is loading, we'll show a spinner. So I'm gonna say loading, and what I would like to do is actually return some JSX. I will say flex, and so that we can say justify, but let's just import this, justify content and maybe center. We will say spinner, which is coming from Chakra again. Spinner size should be X large, and then the margin Y is gonna be 4. So now if you just realize, once I search for the user, I will get that spinner as well at the bottom. Maybe this is a little bit too fast. I would like to go to network and do some test 3G. I'm gonna search for it, so we don't see it yet. Why is that? So maybe spinner is not working. We could just show it here. Yes, spinner is not okay, spinner is here. So maybe we could say slow G, and then here, if it is loading, then we would like to show this, but maybe we did not change the loading state ever, right? Loading is always false. Once we try to fetch this, I will say set loading should be true, and then finally, even if we failed or we success, we just like to change that set loading state to false. Okay, now if I search this, so refresh the page, that should be no throttling, and let's do 3G, fast 3G, and then I will say my name, search it, and then do we still not get this? Okay, maybe at the end of this project we can take a look at it, but I'm sure it's gonna work because in the demo it works. Inside the network, fast 3G, let's say progress, maybe that should be slow 3G. If you just search for it, as you can see, it works. In our case it doesn't, but we'll fix that at the end of this tutorial. So after that loading state or loading spinner, we will finally just repos the map, and we will get the repo, right? Repo, and for each of them we'll return some JSX. So we will have a flags that is coming from the Chakra, and so it says you need to just give a key for them, and I will say key will be repo.id maybe, and then it's gonna have some padding, which is gonna be for bg gonna be white alpha 200, and then on hover state we will change that background. So in Chakra, in order to use this hover effect, you'll use underscore hover, and it's gonna be taking an object which the background is gonna be 400 white alpha, and then we'll give some margin y of 4, and then padding x of 10, gap is gonna be 4, border radius is gonna be 4 again, and then transition, because we're doing some background color change, right? So I'm gonna say transition, it's gonna be all 3 seconds, 0.3 seconds, and it could be ease. And then justify content is gonna be space between, and then align items is gonna be center. So now inside this flex we will have one more flex that is gonna say the flex should be 1, which is gonna be this left side if you take a look at the demo. So what we did here is that we said that this is gonna be a flex in space between, right? The one of them is gonna be on the right, one of them is gonna be on the left. And now we are building this flex right now, and then we will say this also is gonna be a flex, and the size of them is gonna be like flex 1, because we just want them to grow until they fit the parent. So this is why we're using this flex 1, and then direction is gonna be column for the left one, and here we will have a link. So link is coming from the next link, maybe that should be coming from Chakra UI because I want to use some styling. So Chakra UI React, that link, I need to delete this from here. So here, import the link from Chakra UI Next.js. Okay, I'm gonna say font size is gonna be MD, and font weight is gonna be bold, like this. And then inside here we would just like to say repo.name, and href is gonna be repo.html-ref. So href is gonna be repo.html_url. So below this link we will have a badge that is gonna show the language that this repository typed in. So import it from the Chakra UI, and then it's gonna have some props, which is gonna be font size of 0.7 em, and then color scheme is gonna be maybe WhatsApp, and then width is gonna be minimum content, min content, text align center as always, and then padding x should be 1. So padding x is gonna be 1. So inside this badge we will say the language is gonna be equal to repo.language, or it's gonna be maybe not specified, or maybe you could just say none. So if you just save this, we're gonna see that on the left we will get the repo name, and then repo, so to say, the language that has been typed in. But I would like to just give this a little bit of margin top, so that it just doesn't look so that would just look a little bit cooler. Margin top of 2 maybe. Okay, now I think that looks good, but maybe margin top of 1. Okay, that's better. And now let's just build this right side. So on the right it is gonna be this, after this flex, I guess. So we're gonna have one more flex, and that should also be flex of 1, and then gap is gonna be 4, and then margin left is gonna be 6. So now inside this flex we're gonna have a bunch of badges. So one badge is gonna be here, and font size is gonna be now 0.9 em. Color scheme is gonna be orange, like this. So in order to have them all of the badges in the same width, we will say flex should be 1. So I'm gonna say text align center for this, and I think we're just gonna copy and paste this a bunch of time. So first it's gonna be stars, and then we will get again forks, like forks count, and then we will have the watchers count. And I think it's gonna be it. But for the color schemes, we're gonna, okay, now that looks good to me. If we just take a look at it here, this is how it works. In here, maybe we could change the font size. Is it a little bit too small here? Maybe that could be 1 em. Or maybe we could just say, okay, it's font family, my bad. So that should be font size. Okay, now if we say like 0.9 em, that should work. Okay, as you can see, it is exactly what what we expect. And now I would like to add that show more button functionality, but before that I want to have it like goes from the most stars to the very least. And for this we can just use the sort function in JavaScript before we map this. So here I'm gonna say sort, and I will call just like this. So I will take the first repo, and then the second repo. So in order to sort this in descending order, you need to do this. So first you take the second one, which is gonna be that B, and you will take whatever the value that, or like whatever the key that you would like to sort depending on that. So you take this, in our case gonna be stargazer count, and then you do minus a dot stargazers count. Now if you just do this, it is gonna sort in descending order. And if you just take a look at it, this is what we'll see. But if you just want to do the reverse, you'll say a dot and then b dot. So you're gonna say first a and then b. So this is really how it works in JavaScript. Maybe you can read a little bit documentation if that looks scary or confusing. So what I want to do is in descending order. And now we are looping through that 30 results one by one. What I would like to do, once I reach the 5th one, I would like to just check, are we showing more or not? So I will take this flex, cut this for a second, we will paste this again. So instead of having this normal brackets, I will have curly braces, and I will say return whatever we just cut it. So I will just paste that, and then here I will say if I need to get the index. So if the index is greater than 4, so if it is 5, right, and if it is not showing more, we're just gonna return null. And in our case, we are not showing more, right? The show more was initially false, as we can see here. And so that's why we will first get the 5th result. And if it was true, we would see all of them, right? So I can just delete this. And as you can see, now we see all of them. But instead of changing that manually, I will add a button. So I will say this should be false. And then at the end of our file, I think below this repos, we will say if we are showing more, I would like to render a button that is going to have a flex container, and then we will have a button maybe like this. It's gonna have size of medium, and like color scheme is gonna be WhatsApp, but we need to import this button from Chakra UI. And then since we got the color scheme, we can just say show less, and on click to this function we would like to change that set show more state. So on click we will call this anonymous function, which will say set show more. We will take it as false, and then we just want to copy this and paste it again. and it's gonna be if not show more, right? And the repo.length is greater than 5. So int repos the length is greater than 5, and you'll see why we're adding this. So it's going to be say show more, and on click to this, that is going to be true. Now if you just save this, I think it is not going to look cool, right? We just need to take this into center. So here I'm just going to say flex justify content to center, and maybe it should have margin y of 4, and copy this two props, paste it into here. So this is how it works. So now once we click to this show more, it's gonna fetch, or like it's gonna show us the rest of it, as you can see. And what we are doing here is that, so here we first show this show more button. The show more state is false and repo's length is greater than 5. And once we click to this button, show more is gonna be true. So this this portion is gonna be now true. That's why we will show that show less button at the end of our page. This is really how it works. And this repo's length is 5Ks. Like if we have like John Doe, which has I think only one repo. Now since he only has one repo, we don't need to show that show more button because we can't show more really, right? That's why we added this length property into this if check. So now I think with this we are ready with, or like we are done with data fetching stuff. All we need to handle is to this search history implementation, right? This is what we have. Right, it looks exactly the same as our demo. We have search bar, user profile, and then repositories. And don't forget, all this data that we are getting is first from this API, which is API github.com/users. And then inside this API, we got something we called, so was it repos.url? Let me just take a look at it. So we got the repos_url. And then we use that API again to fetch some data that was related to the repositories. And once we fetch it, we store it inside the state, and then we show it by doing this map method. So now in order to implement this search history model, we first need to keep track of the users that we have searched previously. And for this, we're going to be using the local storage of the browser. And let's just implement this, but the place that we're going to be implementing this is going to be once we click to the search button, we need to add this user to that local storage. So for this, I will go inside the search component, right? Once I fetch the user, once I set this data, I would like to do add the user to local storage. So it's going to be a function that I will initialize. So I will pass the data and maybe the username, which is going to be the query. And so here I will take this function and initialize it down below of here, const add user to local storage function name, and then we'll take the data, and here is going to be the username. And then what we'll do, so first we will check if this user exists or not. So I'm going to say const users and json.parse the local storage and get the item. So this is going to be, let's say, github-users. And if we don't have anything there, we will have this users as an empty array. And what I would like to say is const if user exists. So we will say user from the users array, try to find or like loop through each user and check if the user.id is equal to this username. So username, and it is ID because this is how we're gonna handle this. So if you didn't understand, let me just finish this function. And now here we'll say if user exists, we will just put that user at the top of the search history. So I will say users.supplies, and then we will just say users.index of user exists, comma 1. So what this does is, let me just give you the demo of it. So here in my search history, I have my name at the bottom because I have searched this first. Now if I search my name again, what's gonna happen, it will take this and put the very top because this is the latest what we have searched. Now once I search it, it's gonna be at the top. This is what we are checking. If this user is already in the local storage, then just put that at the top of the the array, so that we are gonna show it at the top. And then if it is not, right, we will just put the user again at the top of the array. So users dot shift, unshift, which puts that at the beginning of the array, is gonna be an object. So we will have the ID, which is gonna be the data.login, or maybe that username. And then we'll have avatar underscore URL, which is gonna be the avatar URL that is coming from the GitHub API. And then we'll have the name, data.name, and then we'll have the URL, which will take us to that profile, and we'll say data.html URL. So with this, we can set the local storage with this users array. Now I know that's a little bit confusing, but what we did is, once we click to that search button, once we fetch the user, we go to the local storage and check if we have any users there or not. If we don't have it, we'll return an empty array. If we have it, we'll return all of the users. And then if the user exists that we just searched, if it exists, we're gonna put it at the top of the top of that model. So we don't want to have the same user again and again. So one here, and then if I search it again, I don't want to have that multiple times in the array. I hope I explained that in the best way. And now let's just take a look at it. Inside the local storage, I will come to here, application. If you can take the here and storage, local storage here. So we don't have, what do we have? So we only have this default stuff. And now if I check my name, search for it, as you can see, we got GitHub users with this key, and then it is an array. It has my name, avatar URL, and let's expand this. So we have like my profile link, and then my name, my ID, my avatar URL. So now we are gonna fetch this inside this search history model. And for this, we're gonna be using model from the Chakra UI. And before we use this, I actually want to create a component for this, which is gonna be the history model.jsx. I will say RAFC, and then we are gonna be using this inside the navbar, if I'm not wrong. So inside the navbar, so we will have it here, but let's take a look at the documentation. So in order to use this, we need these three functions. Let's copy this and paste it, which is gonna be closing the model, open that, and check if it is open currently or not. Import this from the Chakra, and so we will say if it is open, then we would like to show that history model. So if it is open, right, and we'll just say history model, and we would like to send these functions into there so that we can close it inside this component. So we'll say is open, it's gonna be is open, and then on close, and it's gonna be on close. I'm not sure if we need on open, but let's see. So inside the history model, we are going to fetch the data, but before that, once we click to this button on click, we will call that on open function. So if you just take a look at it here, so once I click to this, I will get this history model open. But what I would like to do is to actually have it this kind of content. And for this, we need to use this model component with model overlay, model content, and footer. So back to the VS Code inside the history model. First, I will just get the data from the local storage. For this, I need one state. It's going to be the search history, which is going to be an empty array initially. And then what we'd like to do is use a use effect so that we can fetch that from the local storage. I will say const users. We'll just get the GitHub users from the local storage and then set this history search. Okay, now that will work. So we'll just need to put the HTML in our screen. So first we said we need a model. It's gonna take that is open and on close functions. So let's just import this and then close that model, which will be coming from the Chakra UI. And maybe we can just say this is gonna be a use client. So inside this model, we'll have model overlay, and below that overlay, we'll have the model content. So model content, and background of this model content should be gray 900. So we will have a model header that is gonna say search history. We need to import this again. After this, we will have a model body and import this again. So first we'll have a text, and that is gonna say users you searched for, and then import this. I'm not sure why it doesn't import automatically. And then below this text we will have a vertical stack again. So let's just take a look. In our users, they are just vertically like on top of each other. So that's why we want to use a vertical stack and import this. Close that tag, and then it's gonna have some gap, which is gonna be 4, and then maximum height of 300, and then overflow is gonna be like overflow y is gonna be auto, and you'll see why. Now we will say if search history dot length is equal to 0, then we will just return a text that is gonna say you haven't searched anyone. So we'll say text no search history. Maybe we could say no users searched yet. If it's equal to 0 like this, and then color is gonna be 400, like gray 400, and then font size could be small, I guess, and then font weight is gonna be bold. Right, I think that looks good to me. And after this, if we have search history, then we'll just gonna map it and show some JSX. So here, why does it give me error? So I need to close this, and then we will have a flex, which is again gonna have a lot of stuff, a lot of props on it. So let me just give ourselves a little bit space, and then put so that should have key as user.id, and then align items center, background white alpha, so white alpha 200, width should be full, and then on hover we will change the background. I guess background should be white alpha 400, and then border radius is gonna be 4, and then padding is gonna be 2. Also the cursor should be pointer. Now inside this flex, let's just save this. We will have one more flex for avatar, and then the username. So we'll say import the avatar from Chakra UI. So that should be self-closing. So this flex is gonna have gap of 2, align items is gonna be center, and then avatar is gonna be display block, size is gonna be LG, name is gonna be user, so like user.name, because if you remember we just set the name inside this name field. So this is the object that we are using really. So we got the name, and for the source we will just say user.avatar underscore URL, and it is this field that we had set. So after this avatar, we're gonna have a box that is from Chakra UI again, and then we will have a text in what it's gonna say, maybe the username. And if user doesn't have a name, so this is optional field in GitHub, so we could just say user. And if you just take a look at the John Doe, it doesn't have a username, so that's why we put this user text. And so we could just delete this font size to medium. We could also have like only font weight to bold, and after this text we would like to, let's just copy and paste this, and then we'll say user.id, and we can delete this part. And then this is gonna have font not bold, but font size I think gonna be small, like this, and then the color is gonna be gray 400. So after this box, after this first flags, we will have one more flags for the right side, and then we will, I think, say align items is gonna be center, and then gap is gonna be 4. Now we can close this, and this is gonna have one link, which is going to have the visit text inside, and then we will say href gonna be user.url, and then size is gonna be small, color maybe could be black, and then background is gonna be WhatsApp 200, so background is equal to WhatsApp 200, and then border radius gonna be 4. On hover we would like to change something, which is going to be the text decoration, so we don't want that underscore, I guess. So like text decoration, so it doesn't work. Why is this? Text decoration none, and background is going to be WhatsApp 3000, so 300, and let's import this link, which is going to be coming from Chakra UI Next.js. Let's just save this to see where we are. So we got the use state is not defined, so let's just import this and maybe use effect as well. So once we click that, so is open is not defined, that's right. Did we use is open? Yeah, we have. So okay, we need to just import this from the navbar. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. So we'll just get the is open and then on close function. Hopefully it's gonna work this time, and there we go. So I'm not sure why spacing is not working, but so this is our flags. We have the avatar, let's check it. Where is the avatar? So it's here, and now that should be align items. Okay, so we forgot to say justify content, right, space between. So here it's gonna work. Now we're just gonna push it to the right, and then maybe we could just give it a little bit margin inside the, should it be inside the model body? After this users you have searched for, you could maybe just say this vertical stack could have maybe margin top of 4. Let's save it. So we got that spacing, and then maybe we could just say margin y of 4, and then we'll get that spacing from the bottom as well. And I would like to have this delete icon. For this, let's just take a look at the icons from the Chakra UI. I think they had it here. So icon maybe. So we need to install the icons. I will come to here, new terminal, paste it, and then like there is a little, like really few of them, and we're gonna be using this delete icon. I'm not sure why they have really few of icons, but we're gonna have it. Here, let's just import this delete icon. Maybe we could put it like this, delete icon from the Chakra UI icons. And so after this visit link, we will put that delete icon. So I will say delete icon, and it's going to be self-closing tag. It's going to have some props. So color is going to be red 400, and on click we would like to delete that user from the local storage. So I will say on click, let's just for now not do anything and take a look at the UI if that works. So here maybe you could give a little bit padding to this link. So padding X could be 2. Okay, so let's just search for more users. Maybe I could say like John Doe. Search it, we got the profile, and now we have it inside our search history. We can search for more people. Let's go with Brad Traversy and search it. We will get that here. And now search for Fireship IO, and then we will get it here. And as you can see, now we have this overflow auto. If we did not put that, like, where is it? So if you just delete this, it is not gonna look pretty good. Actually, it's gonna look ugly. As you can see, it overflows. And what we say here is that once it overflows, we will just have it auto, which is scroll behavior. And as you can see, this scroll is pretty ugly. I would like to just change it for like in my CSS. I'm not sure if Chakra UI has some styling for that, but I'm gonna put it inside the global CSS. And let's just ask GitHub Copilot if he can create one for us. We'll say dark mode, thin scroll bar, and it's gonna give the scroll bar as 5 pixels. Dark background, change the thumb and maybe the thumb hover, and let's save this. And as you can see, it just works pretty dang good. And now what I would like to do is only change this to 10 so that it's gonna be a little bit thicker. So really, this is the functionality that I want. The last thing that we need to handle is gonna be, once you click to this, it's gonna delete that from the history, which is gonna be our local storage. So let's get back into there. So inside that delete icon, on click, I will say handle delete user, and I will pass that user.id inside this function. Was that ID? Let me just check. Yes, user ID, which is the username. So let's create this function up here. Const handle delete user is gonna take the user ID. You can say like it's gonna be the user ID, and then here inside we will get the users as always from the local storage, and we will say const user to delete, right? This is the user that we would like to delete, and we will find it with its ID, or like the user ID. And then if this user exists, we are going to remove that from the local storage. So I will say if user to delete, I will do this, and I can make it one line by deleting this curly braces. And then now local storage that set item GitHub users, which is going to be this array, we are stringifying it. And then we will just set this history state to this users, which we remove the one that we deleted. And then eventually we would like to just show some toast. For this, I will come back to here, copy this line, paste it, import it from the Chakra UI, and then I will just say toast, open that with an object, and then title is going to be success, user deleted successfully, and then we'll have status as success, duration 3 seconds, and then is closable going to be true. Now if we save this, I think that is going to be it. We can delete the Fireship from here, and it's going to say user deleted. Delete me, John Doe, Brad Traversy, and now we have not searched any users in our history. And yeah, this is a wrap. This is the end of the tutorial actually. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, enjoyed the video. If so, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel a lot, and let me know what you guys want in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.